Welcome to Edelwood Park. Our 20,000 square foot town park is located in the center of our community. It's a treasure in our small town with a rich history that dates back to 1887. You can learn more about our park's history through our brochures at the visitor center. After dark notice. While we encourage the public not to enter the park after dark, we cannot stop individuals from entering. Here are some rules to help you and your family stay safe if you wish to enter after hours, when park maintenance and staff are no longer on the property. 1. If you must enter the park after dark, don't go alone. 2. Garbage bins are located at every entry point. Please do not litter. 3. We encourage you to leave your pets at home. We cannot guarantee lost pets can be recovered if they go missing. 4. Do not mention any personal information, names, where you live, etc. While inside the park, it is better to keep that private until you leave. 5. Stay on the path, but don't linger. Keep moving, or you may be approached by another. 6. If you encounter another person, be careful not to make eye contact. They don't like that. 7. If you are approached by someone you think you recognize that didn't come in with you, it's best to not acknowledge their presence. 8. It is best not to be tempted to look up at the trees, even if you think you hear your name coming from up there. 9. If you feel you are lost, do not backtrack. You won't find the exit that way. 10. Though public gatherings are forbidden after dark, do not join any groups with campfires. 11. If the person you came in with needs to ask permission to enter your vehicle and does not have pupils, leave them at the park. 12. If there is an emergency, do not call the police. Call our park number. We might be able to respond faster. 248-434-5508. 13. Last, don't forget to bring a flashlight to illuminate your path. There is no light inside. Working late nights as a secretary at the Ashford Chronicle newspaper, I often hear about the strange things happening throughout this town, but I have never experienced anything myself up until last week. I was working late, sorting out backed up mail at about 11:15 p.m. when a tall young man in a business attire and a trench coat walked into our lobby. I remember how curious it seemed that this man was dressed formal, even though our downtown business area is always casual. Must be someone passing by, I had thought. He walked to the front desk and asked if I could retrieve a newspaper from 1715-1947, speaking into his collar while maintaining eye contact. Although he had no blemishes or marks to make him stand out, something about his perfect complexion made him seem unnatural. His request was bizarre at such a time, and even more weird was how he covered his mouth before speaking. However, we do sell copies of old prints, often to our older residents and historians, and I didn't mind taking a break from sorting mail, so I agreed to help him. I began searching for the article on my computer while making small talk. The man probed me with questions about the town, still covering his mouth every time he spoke. I indulged him and even tried asking him questions about himself, but he would only deflect. He was polite, but a bit awkward. I finally realized that the print he was looking for was so old that it had not been saved into our digital archives. No worries, I said. We have one physical copy of every paper in the back. I found the paper and brought it to the copy machine in front of our editor's office, which was a clean glass tube that divided my desk from the rest of the building. I was setting up the copy machine when he asked me how long it would take, except this time I was watching his reflection in the glass without his knowledge. I swear. As he talked to me, his mouth never moved to make a sound. How was this possible? I turned around wildly, signaling his secret had been revealed, but the fright of this experience didn't allow me to stick around. I ran to the back to find a couple of co-workers, but by the time we got to the front, he was already gone, along with the newspaper. It was our only copy, but it creeps me out to even think about it. I asked my boss not to work late at night anymore, but now I see this unusual man in my dreams. When I try to stay up, all I can think about is the unsettling headline I had glanced at on the paper from September 1947. Strange lights and missing children. I woke up in the middle of the night with a figure staring at me through my window from the outside. It was a shapeless figure, dark and looming, like a shadow. The figure was just standing there, watching me sleep. I was terrified and jumped out of bed, but when I got to the window, there was no one there. I looked outside and saw no one in the street. It was like the figure had vanished into thin air. I have no idea who or what that figure was, but it was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. Before going inside, I looked through the same window, and peering into my room, I saw myself sleeping. It was the morning after Halloween, and something was off. The sun was too bright, the sky was too blue, and the birds were chirping too cheerfully. It was as if the world was mocking her with its happiness. She had woken up that morning feeling like something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. It was like a dark cloud was hanging over her head, but she couldn't see it. She tried to shake off the feeling as she got ready for her day, but it only got worse. By the time she left her house, she was sure that something terrible was going to happen. She had barely made it to the end of her street when she heard the sound of shattering glass. She turned to see a group of teenagers throwing rocks through the windows of her neighbor's house. She stood frozen in fear as they turned their attention to her. She could see the malice in their eyes, and she knew she was in trouble. She tried to run, but they were too fast. They caught her and dragged her into the abandoned house nearby. She screamed and fought, but it was no use. They hit her and kicked her until she was unconscious. When she woke up, she was tied to a stake in the middle of the living room, burning. The teenagers were gathered around her, laughing and jeering. She cursed them as the flames began to rage around her whole body. She could hear their laughter echoing in her ears. This would be the beginning of the end. As the fire burned around her, the flames did not consume her. Her skin did not peel, but the teenagers started to feel immense pain. They dropped to the ground, clutching their heads and screaming. The pain was so intense that they could not move. They could only lay there and writhe in agony. The dark cloud that had been hanging over her head slowly started to descend on the house. It grew larger and larger until it engulfed the entire house. The teenagers were engulfed in darkness, and their screams were silenced. With a smirk on her face, she left the burning house, vanishing into the nearby woods. The only sound was the crackling of fire, and then there was silence.